Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of SideQuest with me, Luke, the Ginger Bookworm. Now, to be honest, today's SideQuest, I wasn't planning on doing it. I was actually planning to take the weekend off and to chill, relax. There's not much going on in the news, in like nerdy news or movie, TV, gaming, nostalgic, that kind of thing. There's not really going on. So I thought, you know what? I'll take the weekend off, chill, come back strong next week. And then I saw a headline in the news about Nintendo, and I thought, oh, like I don't really pay. To be honest, I will say it now because it will be blatantly obvious in a minute. But I will state it now. I'm not a fan of Nintendo. I used to like Nintendo when I was younger. I loved Nintendo. My sister had a Color. I had a Game Boy Advanced. I loved playing Spyro on it. I loved playing. I think it was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and I had Monsters Inc. I played Pokemon on it, Emerald on it, and then I got my DS. I love my DS. I played Pokemon Pearl, and I played Professor Layton. I love the Professor Layton games. I'm in the midst of actually recollecting them. I've only got the first two. I'm looking into getting the other ones after I've completed the second game. The second game's great. It's like I'm not big into anime, but I just really love the Professor Layton stuff. Anyway, after the DS, the DS Lite, I had. My mum had the DS XL with the bigger screen, but we never upgraded to the 3DS or anything like that. It was just as far as we got that, and it was like we've grown up with them, we've enjoyed them. Moving on, I think it was like the Vita next and all this jazz, and I just didn't go any further with it. So that's my stance on Nintendo. I'm not the biggest fan nowadays. I feel, well, I'll get into the reasons why I'm not in a minute. It's just I wanted to give that sort of first sort of hit, that first sort of idea as to why I'm not a fan. So, whenever Nintendo's in the news, I tend to not take notice. I tend to be like, oh, I don't really care. It's not like PlayStation or Xbox when they come up, and I'm like, oh, I perk up, I take notice. It's more just the fact of I just sort of ignore it. But this news cycle kept coming up, and all the people that I follow on YouTube kept making videos on it. So I thought I've got to look into this. And the basic premise, the basic idea, is that Nintendo were waiting for the Wii U to hit its 10th anniversary, which is this November, before shutting down the eShop completely. And you probably think, well, why is that an issue? Well, the reason that's an issue is because when they closed down the e-store, anybody who still uses a 3DS or a Wii, or any sort of DS device that still connects to the e-store, won't be able to play any of their digital games. They won't be able to play online with friends, not even like local online with friends. Like there'd be no online features. You can't, like, if you're still playing Pokemon, for example, you can't share. Even if you connect to the internet, you couldn't share Pokemon, that sort of thing. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because obviously this week I did a big long hour and 20-minute long video of audio. Bloody, get my words out. See, side quest. Yeah, I make mistakes. I'm not always on point. But I did a big sort of hour 20-minute long audio about game preservation, specifically for Xbox. But the consensus that I try to get at is that we should protect games, of if they're digital or physical. That games should stand the test of time, like art. They are an art form now, so they should last forever. But what this means, what Nintendo's doing now, is that once they shut down this store, you lose access to all your digital games. They have made reports saying that they will look into making sure that you can still gain access to them, but it still feels rather like ungamer like, and this is why I named the video Nintendo Hates You, because I generally don't think Nintendo's gamer friendly. I've felt like this for a very long time, and I think I've hinted at it in past audios, past episodes where I've talked about Nintendo, where Nintendo's come up, and I've mentioned like Nintendo are non-gamer friendly. Nintendo doesn't care about you, the consumer. They just care about your money. The best example for that really is that they never lower the price of their consoles. Their consoles will always be the price they set them at the beginning. You might get a sale, but it's not a huge sale, you know. Same with the games. The games really never drop in price. You know, minus any sales, they never drop in price. They're always, as new. 45 to 50 quid depending on the game. You know, and it's not just with their modern hardware; it's there with their old hardware as well. Like if you want to go buy a 3DS, it's still upwards, near the same price it was brand new. And it's their mentality. It's how they work. It's very much sort of like, well, why should we lower the price of our stuff? It's like they're really so big-headed, so much like in their own up their own asses, basically, that it's just like, well, why should we lower our prices because our consoles and our products that we make and sell are top notch, top tier, and that you don't, you know, um, lower the price on quality. Which again, fair. Okay, I understand it. If you're proud and you like what you do, completely fine. You don't have to lower your price. No, but it's just more just the fact of, if you want to be pro game, if you want to be pro, consumer, it's helpful, to us, the people that are going to have to spend this money, is if you lower the prices, if you are fair. Like, somebody wants to get the new Pokemon, but they can't afford it right now because they haven't got the money. Like a little kid like me, like, doesn't get a lot of pocket money, but wants to experience a new Pokemon. Their parents can't buy it for them, they can't afford it, so they wait for a sale. But if that game never really goes on sale, or never really drops low enough where they can buy it, then they can't experience it. Then they've got to wait for a long time till that game becomes second hand, and then maybe get it then. And I just feel like that's that idea, that whole sort of way of doing things, is really unfair. Now, I've got an article here by Eurogamer that goes into it, and this news basically breaks from a insider. So, according to a new report published by Nintendo Light, which cites a former Nintendo of America employee speaking anonymously on the inner workings of the company, earlier this week, Nintendo upset the internet when it announced it would remove the ability to purchase digital 3DS and Wii U games from March next year. Wii U turns 10 years old this November. And it goes on to say, Nintendo knows it has to support a product for a minimum of 10 years, or they risk some class action. The ex-Nintendo employee said, adding that the decision not to support Wii U long-term was made long ago. Internally, Nintendo has been waiting for that day since 2014, based on sales. Nintendo looks at the first 2 years as the indicator of when to start packing it in with a console. It is worth comparing the Wii U to Nintendo's hugely successful 3DS handheld, originally launched in 2011. The handheld's eShop will have lasted a year longer than Wii U, when both have purchasing switched off next March. Lifetime sales of the 3DS sit above 75.7 million compared to the Wii U's 13.5 million. I'll be honest, I never got the Wii U. I had a few friends that had it, but like I said at the beginning, by the stage that came out, I'd given up on Nintendo. I'd given up on their games. I didn't much like the games they were doing. I was only really a fan of Pokemon. But apart from that, like, Pokemon wasn't enough to keep me going. Pokemon wasn't enough to make me want to stay. And I liked Mario, but like, I didn't like it enough to be like, okay, I'll keep buying your consoles. So I just thought, I'll leave Nintendo. I'll leave quietly. They won't know I'm gone. They won't notice, and it all fine. And that's basically how I've been for years now, really. Like, I've recently come back and started playing on my DS again. As I said, I'm recollecting the Professor Layton games. Like, I currently have Cursed Village, and I've got it actually right here. Let me grab it. Professor Layton and Pandora's Box. That's game 2. I love the art for these games. They're lovely. Eventually, I am going to have to get a 3DS, because one of the last 1 or 2 games in the series only works on the 3DS, which is a bummer, but that's the way it is. But again, it's that thing of like, is it worth me getting a 3DS now? Because would it work? More than likely it would do, but again, that's still the worry. Let's continue with the article. So the article goes on. They will give notice in 2023 that the service will be shut down after a time. The ex-employee predicted people will have 100% will 100% people will 100% lose their games if something happens to their Wii U or the drive they have their games on. See what I mean? So if your console gets destroyed, or if accidentally you drop it in a couple of years after this is done, the hard drive is gone. There's no salvaging it. There's no going to the cloud. It's gone. You've lost it. So it becomes a thing of like, well, if I use it, this is now a relic. So like if I accidentally damage it and it gets or my data gets corrupted or something like that, because these things happen with technology, new or old. Data can get corrupted in games, and that could mess up your hard drive. And just think, you've got all these games saved, all these games on there, no way to access the cloud. Something happens, you drop it, corrupted save file, it gets water damage, anything like that, you've lost all your games, you've lost all your progress. That thing is now a brick, a really expensive paperweight. It's wrong, really. What and I don't get Nintendo's thinking, and this is why I named this episode Nintendo Hates You, because it does. Nintendo is not pro gamer, they're not pro industry at all they want is they want your money, they want your good words and praise, and that's it. Anybody who says I'm not famous, I'm not popular, it's more than likely this audio is going to get 4 to 5 people listening to it, and that's completely fine. That's not the point, but what I mean is that Nintendo's not going to hear this, which again I don't really care if they do or don't, but like the point is, anybody who speaks bad about Nintendo gets blacklisted by Nintendo, and then Nintendo won't send them anything. They only like people that talk positive about them. They hike up the prices of their games. They never really lower them. They make it hard for you to having to buy games pre-owned, because like the way that their games work is that, like, if I buy a DS cartridge, all of it gets saved onto the DS cartridge itself, meaning that I've got to go into the game and I've got to they make it really difficult where I've got to go in onto that and find a way to delete the other person's progress so I can start new progress, especially on the Professor Layton games. They only give you 3 slots. If you're buying them pre-owned second-hand, if that person like had a family and shared them with their family, and each one of the family members had a different what's the word I'm looking for, account at these 3 ones, and fair enough, they're no longer using it. I've got it now, but I've now got to make it hard for me to go in and just delete everything on there so I can start a new one. And they don't make it easy for you. And like I said, Nintendo are just, they do Maiden. they do. Like I said, I don't really take notice of anything they do anymore. People go, oh, Nintendo are not what they used to be. Nintendo used to be that a company that was in the forefront. They were there doing new things. When the Wii came out, I remember playing on the Wii and just being amazed that I am the controller. That was the idea. That was the concept of the Wii and the Joy-Cons, was that me moving and use my body, I am the controller. The idea of that, I get these things and I can play like Legend of Zelda, and I can pull the Joy-Con back and I can shoot a bow and arrow, that I can work out using my body. I can play games and just with the movements. I can do bowling. I used to love Wii Sports. Wii Sports is my game. Like, it was a game that came with it, and I enjoyed the hell out of that game. I didn't really play. That was the game I played the most. All my family. We still got the Wii now. We don't have it set up, but we still have the Wii, and it's still one of those games that we would still happily, if we was to get it down out the loft, it was like, yeah, let's play Wii Sports. Oh, forget all these other games. Let's play Wii Sports. And I think Wii Sports is probably one of the most successful games ever sold, because it came out with the Wii, and the Wii was so successful. I don't know the statistics on that. You can actually have to Google that yourself. But I know the Wii Sports is probably one of the most successful games ever, because it came with the Wii, which again is one of the most successful consoles. But if you look at the list of the most successful consoles, actually, I would say I'd do it now, but I don't want to lose my page. I'll do it in a minute, after I spoke about what I want to speak about. But Nintendo's up high on the list of some of the most successful consoles because they innovate. They did something different. They're like the old mule, the old donkey. They've been around a lot long. They know the ins and outs. Yeah, and it just feels like with every sort of advancement they had, eventually they got to the point where it's like, oh, we did the Switch. Okay. I'm not really, you don't really sold. Like, it's cool, you're innovating, but I'm not. Again, it got to that point where I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would never use that function for what it's for, though. Like, the whole idea of the Switch is you have friends, and I don't have friends. And a majority of my friends who got the Switch don't really have friends, loads of friends to do what the Switch is meant to do, where you get loads of Joy Cons and you set the screen up on the desk and you just playing with loads and loads of friends. You know, my brother got one, and we ended up doing it with the family, but we only did it once or twice, and that gimmick sort of quickly wore off, and eventually, um, we just didn't bother with it. It was just, and then my brother just took control, and he's just played on it as you would a normal console. He never really took it out the dock. He only really took it out the dock if we weren't allowed to use it on the TV. But majority of the time, it was in the dock and it was being used on the TV. So again, it was the idea of the gimmick. The gimmick was great, but even after speaking to a lot of friends of mine, they themselves don't really use it as a handheld much anymore. They just use it in the dock. And then when the new light came out, which was, I think, was dockless, it was just purely a handheld. I think you could still work on the dock. I'm not really sure how it works. I'll be honest, haven't really looked into it because I don't really care much anymore. But the dock idea was cool. But then you get the light comes out and it's more smaller, which really, what the light is now should have been what the Switch is. Like, I like the idea of, you can put the dock on it and all that, but like, I just feel that it was a gimmick that could have worked, and it did kind of work, but like, it's not really something that's been used so much. The light is, I think, where it's at now. I think Nintendo knows that because they recently brought out the OLED version, which is, you think, oh, OLED, a nice big screen. It's probably because if it's got a bigger screen, higher sort of quality screen, that means more power. No, they're not doing more power. They've just done a better quality screen, but they're charging more for it. And me, I'm like, well, no. Like, if you're going to give me the good high quality screen, the OLED screen, give me extra power. Give me extra quality. Nintendo's like, no, we gave you a screen. Be happy. Pay us money. Pay us more, please, because we gave you a thing and you liked it because it's better than the one you got. So please pay us. And I don't like that. I don't like that way of thinking. I don't like that way of doing things. I'm more just the fact of, like, oh, when, like, Nintendo, we are new, we are exciting, we innovative, and nowadays they just seems like they're just phoning in. Like, it's gone to the point where it's gone from, oh, Nintendo, really, really cool, everything they do is for the gamer, for the consumer. They appeal to their fans. Their fans love Nintendo, love Luigi. Oh, well, we'll do the games that you love, and we'll only do the games you love. I was like, okay, that's good. That's nice. I would like to see something different, but if that's what you want to do, completely fine. If it works, it works. But over time, I just feel like they've just lost the whole sort of who they are, who they used to be, and now it's just pure, like, we want money, give us money. And it is with their games. Their games are pure member berries. Yes, their games work, and their games are, from what I've heard, fantastic. But it just feels like it's member berries. It's always like what's the game that they made recently? People waiting for it for ages. Oh God, no, it's not Mega Solid. Not Metroid. Yeah, Metroid. No, is it Metroid? Yeah, I think it was Metroid. And then you've got the new Dread game that came out. I've heard it's great. It's fantastic, but it's a game people have been asking for ages, and it's just one of the things. It just feels like, oh, well, our fans have been asking for ages, so we'll finally get around to doing it after saying that we won't do it, we might not do it, and we've got plans, but we don't know all this. We think, oh, member berries, we'll make a lot of money off it, which they have made a lot of money off it because people are fans out there who want to see another one in the series. And that's what they do, but I just feel like, apart from that, they just anti-gamer, this. And this article proves it. This statement proves that, like, they only really need to support a game for some amount of long time because they have to by law. But if it wasn't law in there, you just think how long they would support a console for. You don't see it like, when you get the DS comes out, and the DS has its like long life and it works great. And then as soon as the next console comes out, do they still release the same games on the DS? No, that's it. We've upgraded. You should upgrade too. We no longer make games for those consoles. you know. Whereas Xbox and even PlayStation, they both support games on their older systems for quite a while before eventually they scrub it out. For at least a year or two, they will still release games on old hardware just so people have time to catch up. People have time to get around to buying one or actually save up money. So people can still experience these games, probably not at the same quality, but can still experience them. Again, it's pro-consumer, it's very friendly, it's very much like, well, if you can't buy it now, don't worry, we're going to support these games on our old systems for a good year or two, and then, we will just do completely next gen, which again, for me, that's fine. For me, that's completely fair, that's completely the right thing to do. But Nintendo don't see it that way. Moving on with the article. Last night, the Video Game History Foundation, which if you're not following them on Twitter, I highly recommend you do, because they're a small non-profit organization that basically tries to preserve video games in all forms, all formats, whether it be next gen, high sort of most popular consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, and all that, PC games, and Sega, Capcom, Nintendo. They try to save as many games as possible, and it's a beautiful thing that they're doing. I really highly recommend you check out their website and that you follow them on Twitter, Game History Org or Video Game History Foundation. Just follow that. But they did a statement which I really liked, and I thought was one of the sparks of what made me want to actually talk about this topic on the podcast. Was that they offered their view on the change to the 3DS and Wii U esports. They go, we understand the business reality that went into this decision, the group wrote. What we don't understand is what path Nintendo expects fans to take should they wish to play these games. Should they wish to play these games in the future? That was what they said originally. Then they did this big statement where it goes, hold on a second, there it is. While it's unfortunate that people won't be able to purchase digital 3DS or Wii U games anymore, we understand that the business reality that went into this decision. What we don't understand is what path Nintendo expects its fans to take should they wish to play these games in the future. As a paying member of the Entertainment Software Association, Nintendo actively funds lobbying that prevents even libraries from being able to provide legal access to these games. Not providing commercial access is understandable, but preventing institutional work to preserve these titles on top of that is actively destructive to video game history. We encourage the ESA members like Nintendo to rethink their position on this issue and work with existing institutions to find a solution. So basically what that means is that what it means, like, companies, like game companies, when they have make a game, or even like big companies like Nintendo, they can offer access to libraries, to associations like the Video Game History Foundation, where they would take the game, they would store it, and they will protect it. It's basically like a museum for video games. It's old, it's lived its life. We'll put it in here, we'll look after it, kind of like a care home. Best way to explain it, and that people can come and visit it and play it and just enjoy it for what it was, for the time it was made and how it was made and all that jazz, right? But Nintendo have basically decided not to do that. They've decided that, oh well, when these games are gone, they're gone, and it's just we've moved on. And I get that Nintendo are very much like future focused. Nintendo are very much like, we only really care about what comes next, what's come before. Which again, fair enough. I get it. I understand their thinking. Sony's kind of the same. Sony's, like, especially with their PS5, we're very much like, well, we will make games purely just for the PS5, and that we might do it every now and then, a few games for the PlayStation 4, but mostly we will just focus on next gen. Whereas Xbox were like, well, no, we will support games, all of our games, no matter what console you've got, they will all work on every console. It's just that next gen games will get a free update. And then PlayStation trying to charge you for doing the free update. It's very, again, non-consumer, non-gamer. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if Sony have moved back on that decision, because again, I'm not a really big Sony fan. Um, but from the last game that my brother got was like Far Cry 6, and they were charging you to upgrade for like to do it. Whereas, you know, I've got Far Cry on the Xbox, and it's a free up. Like all I've got to do is put the disc into a next gen console, and it will work for free, and it will get all the upgrades for free. You know what I mean? It's very much like, it seems a bit unfair. You know, it kind of makes me want to go over to Xbox more than PlayStation, because I can get, you know, the upgrades for free. Like, I've already played the entry fee, which is, you know, if I've already gone out and I've bought a next gen console, technically haven't I already paid for the entry fee to use the next gen features? I shouldn't have to pay, you know, for a free upgrade. You know, I should be able to just get the upgrade for free. You know, it seems very sort of what should be going on. Um, and because it's not, it seems very confusing. It seems very sort of wrong. And this is the thing that I have with Nintendo. It seems very much like, well, this game's old. Shouldn't I be able to get it at half the price? And then Nintendo's like, no. Especially like if you go in their digital store, and they did like, I've been a bit on the digital store on my brother's Switch, and their prices for older games that came out a long time ago, are still expensive. You know, and I'm like, bloody hell, I'm not gonna pay that much money, especially not now. Now they're shutting all their eShops down on these older consoles. You know, obviously they will still work for the current gen. That makes complete sense. But it's just the fact that if you're one gen behind, you've lost everything. You know, if that machine gets damaged, which it could do, because you know it's no longer being supported. Especially your hard drive, there's no way to back it up in the cloud to get any of your stuff back. It's very much like, well, what happens if you know, it gets broken, or I tread on it, or you know, my house gets flooded? Well, you've lost all your games. I'm nothing else I can say. You know, it just feels wrong. It feels very, very wrong, very anti-consumer. And coming back to the title of this episode, is that Nintendo hates you. Nintendo, all they want is your money. Nintendo does not like their. It just feels like they don't like their audience. One moment they're doing member berries, you know, they're doing nostalgia, they're doing the games that their members want to see, their players, and then they do stuff like this with not a care in the world. Just like, I don't care. Those games, yeah, we ain't going to give them to an organisation or foundation or a library so people can access them in the future. Nah, they're gone. Screw it. All that hard work and all that stuff that those people put into making them games, it's gone now. Not our problem. It's just wrong. I don't like it. But I'm going to look at the most successful consoles ever. So most successful. Learn how to spell. Consoles. Most successful consoles. Alright, let's have a look. Let's see if we can find a diagram or a picture or an article. And this is the moment when my tablet decides to not work. Images. Right. Best selling video game consoles of all time. Xbox One, 41 million. Switch, 42 million. The SNES is 39 million. That's really bad quality. Let me go to the proper article. Maybe it's a better quality image if I actually go to the thing itself. Right. Okay. So it did Xbox, Nintendo Switch, the SNES Super and the Super Famicom, 49.10 million. The SNES, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, was 61.91 million. Nintendo 3DS is at number 11 for 75.45 million. PlayStation Portable, so the PSP, which I had the original PSP, I quite enjoyed that. That was 80 million. Game Boy Advanced was 81.51 million. Xbox 360 at number 8, which was 85 million. PlayStation 3, which is at 7, it's at 87.5 million. Nintendo Wii, number 6, 101.63 million. PlayStation, the first one, was 102.4 million. PlayStation 4 was 106 million. The Game Boy and Game Boy Color both had 118.69 million. And Nintendo DS, 154.2 million. And PlayStation 2 at 59 million sold. So, as you can see, Nintendo DS at number 2. You've got the Nintendo Game Boy and Game Boy Color at 3. And you've got at number 6, Nintendo Wii. And the Game Boy at number 9. You know, so they are in the top 10. And at number 2, you know, is the DS. DS highest rated game was Grand Theft Auto China Wars. Flipnote Studio, Chrono Tiger. These sales figures comes directly from Nintendo and encompass total sales for all systems within the DS family, including the original model, DS Lite, DSi. Nintendo DS is also the company's best performing system in terms of software sales, with nearly 950 million games sold. And that came out in 21st November 2004. I had a Nintendo DS. I had a DS Lite. My mother had the DSi, which was like a bigger quality. Had it come with a camera. But as you can see, Nintendo are on the top spot. Nintendo are in the top 10. They're number 2 for best console ever with the DS, and that's obviously all the DS range, not with the 3DS. But you know, that's saying something. You know, they've been, like I said, they're the donkey. You know, they've been around the longest. They know what they're doing, and they are innovative, and they are, you know, very clever when it comes to, you know, what works in the gaming world. But at the same stage, it's what they're doing here, where they're just going, well, we're going to shut down all of our e-shops on these old devices. Which, again, fair enough. You know, it's an old console. I don't suspect you to support it forever. Okay, that's fine. And if that was just the article, I would have ignored it and not bothered to do a podcast. The reason I'm doing one, and the reason I'm talking about it, is because not just talking about game preservation in my main episode, but also the fact of, if anything happens to your console, it's gone. All that is gone. You know, all your save data, all your digital games, it's gone. You know, and you can't even connect. Like, there'll be no local servers. There'll be nowhere where you can just be like, well, we don't support it anymore. We don't support the e-store, but we still have the cloud. You can still go in the cloud and use it. Like, no, there's none of that. It's purely just you're on your own. You know, good luck. You know, take care of those old systems, because if you mess up, if you lose it, it's your own fault. Which, again, fair enough, I get it, but it'd be just nice to know that I've got all these games, I've had all this progress, and it will mean something. You know, I've got all these memories on an old console that, you know, I might put in the loft and I forget about it for 20 years, but I want to pick it back up with these old saves on these old drives, and I want to, like, have that nostalgia. I want to have those member berries of, like, oh, I remember playing this game 20 years ago when I was young. You know, and then you get back up and you want to start playing it again. Not now. You know, you don't want to be doing that now. 20 years from now, being like, oh God, be careful with that, because if you break it, all them saves and all those games are gone. So, you know, I don't really want to play it. I just want to look at it and put it back in its, like, steel box and just make sure I'm protecting it forever. You know, I'm over exaggerating, but that's just the thought behind it, is the fact of, like, well, should I now be careful, knowing that, like, if I got one of these systems and I've spent all this time on it, should I keep playing on it? Because if I do, I could run the risk of corrupting the files. I could run the risk of overworking the battery, and something happens, and the system breaks, and I lose everything. You know, it just becomes a huge paperweight. You know, and that's just the worry. That's the fear. I don't have personally, but I could probably feel that a lot of Nintendo fans, friends that I've got who are fans, are probably worrying as well. And you should be worried, because, like I said, it's anti-gamer. Like, that's why I say Nintendo does not like you. Nintendo hates you because of things like this. This is proving it. You know, yeah, they'll happily give you something, that you enjoy. It's kind of like a magician. Look over here, keep looking over here, come here, but don't look over here. You know what I mean? Don't look over here. Take your attention away from this bad stuff, which is them shutting down the store and pardon me, all that. But look over here. Look, Metroid. You like Metroid? You haven't seen Metroid in ages. Look at this Metroid. Get it. Enjoy it. Love it. Yeah. Don't look over here. Don't look up behind the man behind the curtain. Don't worry about that. Look over here. It's that repetition. It's that constant, just look at this new game. Look, we do listen to you. We do love you. And then the fans are like, oh, they do. They listen to us. They love us. This game's amazing. It's polished. We've been waiting for years for it. At the same stage, they do something like this while people are distracted. Obviously, Metroid is an oldish. Well, it's not old, but it's not new as in terms of this article, this news. I'm using it as an example. The point is they do something that people want, so that when they do things like this, a lot of people just be like, either don't take notice, don't see it, or they don't care as much because it's like, well, I'm on newer hardware. I'm on newer software. Like, I'm on the Switch. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me. Whereas you get the hardcore, old school Nintendo fans that still play the older stuff, or don't like. I know a few people that don't like the Switch, or are happy just to use their 3DS and to use the Wii U still. I know people that still use those things, happily enjoy it. It just feels like a big fuck you to them, to their old fans. The old guard. It just feels like the big middle finger to them. Like, well, if you should have upgraded, and maybe you will upgrade now, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the fact of we'll put these old. A lot of people are still using these old systems, but if we shut them down, so they can't really be used as much as they should be, then people will go out and buy our new consoles. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just pulling at straws. Maybe that could be it. Maybe that could be the reason. Maybe we'll get them off the old stuff, and then we'll give them no choice but to, play the new one. I say wait till E3 this year, and just to see at E3 when Nintendo do their big release of their new games coming out, if it's not complete member berries, not complete buy the Switch now because we've got all these brand new member berry games. We've got the next Luigi's Mansion. We've got a new Mario game. We've got all these great games that you love, brand new next-gen Pokemon, or we've got a brand new Nintendo Switch, but with a more powerful and a OLED screen. Don't worry about us, shutting down the servers and stuff for older consoles. Worry about what we're doing now. Buy the new console. You want to buy, you know what I mean? So I say wait to E3, see what they do, see what they say. But yeah, that's all I've really got to say about the topic. I've prepared no notes. This was completely off the cuff. Usually, whenever I do any sort of any of my podcasts, I always write notes, and I try to make sure that I stay on topic. But with this, I just wanted again, this is what I like about doing side quests. I just wanted to hash out how I felt. Again, a lot of the things a lot of the sort of stuff I said is still relatively new. By all means, by the time I release this on Sunday, which is when I'm currently recording this on the Saturday, so when I release this tomorrow and you guys hear it, there could be new news out. This could have changed, but as of now, this is how it stands. This is how it is, and I don't know how to feel about it. Like I said, I shouldn't care about it because I'm not a Nintendo fan. I'm not a Nintendo player anymore. But I do care because, like I mentioned in my last big episodes, I do care about game preservation. I do care about making sure that games last forever, that games stand the test of time. And it just feels like Nintendo are very anti that. And like I said, at the beginning, I didn't plan to do a podcast. This morning, I woke up and I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just enjoy the weekend. But then I saw the quote by the World Video Game Society, Heritage Society, and I was like, you know what? I agree with what they said. So I'll do a quick off the cuff. No preparation, no notes. I'll just jump right in, and this could, again, I hope it hasn't come off too badly. I want to see Nintendo succeed. I want to see them do well. It just feels like at the moment they're making bad decisions, and I just think that they need to really either backtrack, or they need to look, well, probably not backtrack, but look into making sure that people who still on those old machines, or still have those old machines, that if they lose some of their games, that they still have access to the cloud, that they're still stored on the cloud somewhere where that they can just be accessed, where their save data can be accessed, you know their games can be accessed. That, like, just because the server's been shut down doesn't mean they lose everything. And it was the same reason a lot of people haven't gone on to like the Google Stadia or anything like that. Is because when you buy the games, you don't own them. Like if the Google Stadia ever was to crumble, which I feel like from what I've heard it is on the close to crumbling, then you don't own that game. You own a digital receipt. And that digital receipt, that digital key, allows you to use said game for as long as that game is available. But as soon as that system goes down, you've lost everything you've paid for. So who knows? Who knows what Nintendo decides to do from now on? I just think it's very wrong. I think it's very scummy. And this is why I named the episode Nintendo Hates You, because that's what it feels like. It just feels like Nintendo hates you. Nintendo hates me, and that's completely fine. They can hate me all they want. I don't play their games anyway, but I just think it's wrong. It really is. It's anti-consumer, and yeah, I just wish that Nintendo weren't so old-fashioned and would just be like, okay, we'll look into doing better. We'll look into trying newer things, and we'll look at our competitors and we'll see what they're doing. Xbox and PlayStation, and we'll learn from them. That's what I would hope to see. But will they do it? I don't know. They seem to be very stuck in their ways. But that's about it. That's about everything, really. That's enough of my rambling. That's enough of my waffling. That's my thoughts and feelings on this whole debacle. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. It's probably one of the shortest ones I've done since I first started doing these. Because one thing I have noticed that with my videos, even though I don't aim for an hour, I tend to go for an hour and over. But yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my feelings on the topic. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. If you're on Spotify, don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And yeah, so I'm going to sign off. As always, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace. And thank you for listening to today's quite random, quite off the cuff episode of SideQuest.